Hey there everyone, Rajat here. So in today's video I want to talk about a topic which is not discussed quite often on tutorials and programming channels, and the topic is accessibility. So if you are someone who designs UI or applications which are customer facing or which a user directly interact with, I think accessibility is something you should really care about, because whatever applications or UI you are going to design, that thing is going to be used by someone else. So you have to design with empathy and you have to take care of the issues that can be faced by that target person. So in today's video I'm going to give you certain pointers about how you can ensure a good website which is full of accessibility, and it is actually accessible for people with disabilities, and most of the people out there with any sort of disability or something like that can use your application, because that is the ultimate goal of creating the UI, so that the users from every walks of life can use your application to its fullest. So in today's video I'm going to give you certain pointers which you can use as a checklist to ensure that your website or your mobile application is good enough from the point of view of accessibility, and it can be used by people who are not fortunate enough as the rest of us. Before I start my checklist, I would like to mention this one thing, that this checklist is not pertaining to only the web. I have tried to create a checklist that is platform independent. So if you create any sort of UI, you at least have to ensure these many things. Then if you are creating a UI for web application, you can factor in certain other things, and in case you are designing a mobile application, you can factor in a different set of accessibility options. But these accessibility options should be present in each and every user interface you design or application built by you. So my very first topic is responsiveness. See, screens come in many sizes, so you have to cater to this requirement that your content can be viewed on a mobile device or a full screen TV or a normal size laptop. So you have to design with mobile first in mind. So if I go to this website Weddingless, and if I shrink the viewport, you can see that this website is not very responsive. So a user has to horizontal scroll in order to see the content, and this is not a very user friendly thing to do. You have to ensure that even if your website is being viewed on a smaller screen, the user who is accessing your website can still get the maximum value out of it. Here on medium.com we can see that the website is responsive and the user can get some value even if he is viewing from a smaller screen, and if the screen is bigger, the real estate of a screen just increases and then they can arrange the content accordingly. But the value a user can get from the mobile screen is similar to the value he is going to get from a desktop or a full-size screen. So you have to ensure the responsiveness of your interface so that it is accessible on any type of screen out there or the majority of the devices that could be used by your target audience. My second topic is typography. So most of the times any interface contains text and images, so you have to be wary of how you display the information, because if the typography is not good, the user is not going to read most of the content that your website displays. So for example, if I go to Google Fonts, and if you are going to write the main body of your article in this text, you can clearly see that it can become cumbersome and hectic quite easily if you have to read like 2000 words written in such a font. So this is not a very eye-friendly font. It can only be used for a smaller piece of text and for displays, etc. You cannot write your full body in this type of font. So please refrain from cursive font when you are writing something which is in length, or you are writing something like an article or something. So in case you are writing an article, I would suggest that you prefer sans serif fonts because they are easier for human eyes to follow. Okay, so comparatively it is very easier if you are reading something written in a sans serif font. Okay, so you have to ensure that the typography is on point. Also, like if you can see this picture, the grant is written in a cursive font and that cursive font is not quite readable. So it is going to put quite a lot of strain on the watcher's brain and eyes in order to decipher what is actually written in this image. So you do not really want to, mess with your users' brains. Okay, you want your information to be easily accessible, and for that you have to pick the fonts that are readily visible and that are pleasing at the same time, and they convey the information you want to convey without any sort of hassle. My third point is the color scheme. So every website or the mobile application is going to have a certain set of colors it is going to use as its primary palette. So you have to be concerned about what colors you are picking to be the part of the primary palette of your website or mobile application, because if you can see this, most of the people will be having a hard time reading what exactly is written. Suppose this was the color scheme of this website, would you be able to read most of what is written on the screen now? And would you be willing enough to mess around or trying real hard to read what is written on this? You will just abandon this website or this application because the text or the color scheme is just illegible. You cannot figure out what exactly is written because the background and the foreground colors make it really difficult for you to read efficiently. So you always have to ensure that there is a good amount of contrast between the background and the foreground and the buttons you want users to click upon. So you have to select a color scheme which is very, I would say, eloquent and which is very contrasting, so that the users do not feel irritated while consuming the content from your mobile application or web application, and it should also be aesthetically pleasing and soothing to the human eyes. Then my next topic is the disability. See, not all people have the privilege of hearing properly, seeing properly. So there are people with deficiency, and these people also consume web products or mobile applications. So you have to take into account that some part of your user base consists of such people. So you have to get down to the matrix and figure out how can you make your website or mobile application friendly for such user. So let's talk about all these three disabilities one by one. Although there are many sort of disabilities, these three types of disabilities are the most prominent ones. So I thought it would be a good idea to talk about each one of these. See, the first disability, which is very common, is the visual disability. Not everyone can see perfectly. Some people have like very weak vision. Some people have color deficiency. They cannot see all the colors and things like that. So you have to take into account these many things. So if you are not aware, 10% of the total male population of this world and 6% of the total female population of this world is colorblind, which means that they have some sort of color deficiency and they cannot see all the colors that are visible to a normal human's eye. So if we talk about color blindness, people cannot differentiate between two colors. So if somebody is having a red green color blindness, he cannot differentiate between red and green. So if your primary color palette is of those two colors, that person who is having color deficiency is going to have a hard time. And there are other sort of color deficiency, like there are people who cannot see any sort of color, then there are people who cannot differentiate between red and green, and then there are people who cannot differentiate between blue and yellow. So you have to think about all of these things, and also think about that, are these people going to use your website, and will they be able to consume the content from your website with ease. So that was about visual deficiency. Now let's talk about motor deficiency. See, there can be some users who are missing a limb, who just cannot interact with the normal keyboard or mouse. So is your content and your UI friendly enough for those people? Let's suppose there is a person who does not have fingers. So can he operate your mobile application or web UI with a pointing device? Can he access all parts of your application using a pointing device like a mouse or a touch screen? Can he do that? And let's suppose there is a person who is very fond of using keyboard, he does not like to use the mouse, or he has some sort of deficiency due to which he cannot use a pointing device, so he can just press some buttons. Can he access your website? Can he fill the forms? Can he do things like that? So you have to consider, is your website pointing device friendly? Is your mobile application or website keyboard friendly? Can all parts of your form be filled using just the keyboard and things like that? So that comes under the motor deficiency. Even if you are not catering to the person who are not fortunate enough to have a perfect motor abilities, you have to consider this one thing, that there are many people who like to fill their forms with the help of just keyboard. They do not want to point to a input text field and then point to a submit button. They can just press tab and hit enter a couple of times in order to submit the form. So you have to really figure out whether your forms are keyboard friendly or not. So all of this comes under the motor deficiency and the accessibility related to the motor aspect. Okay, then let's talk about the hearing thing. Suppose your website serves videos, and if there is a user who wants to consume your content but he does not have a proper sense of hearing, he cannot hear properly, does your content come with subtitles? Can he still gain the same amount of information even if he is not able to hear it? Can he do that using your website? So on YouTube they have this option of enabling captions, using which even if a user is deaf, he can still receive the same amount of information by reading the subtitles. So if you are serving some sort of video content or audio content, you can consider catering to the users who are not so good with the hearing ability. So maybe putting subtitles and some textual aids to your UI will help them. Okay, so these were the three main types of disabilities you can encounter in your day-to-day users. But please note one thing, that there can be more sorts of deficiencies out there, and in case you have a user base that has that sort of deficiency, you have to cater to the scenarios which can ease out the problems faced by those users in accessing your website. So for that special case, you have to consider or factor in some more accessibility issues in your accessibility survey. And then my final topic for today's session is visual hierarchy. So you have to arrange your content in a way that it looks natural to grasp. So because a human eye consumes or follow a particular trajectory, so if you have seen the flame graphs of reading and all, you might have noticed that human eyes are programmed to read from left to right and top to bottom. So you have to ensure that you are arranging your content in such a way that it is natural for human eye to follow. If you are going to create a website that looks something like this, you have created something that is not very pleasing to the eye first of all, and that is not very easy to grok. So if we talk about this website, nothing is clear. Should I read this first or this line first, or should I start from the middle of the screen, or should I read from left to right or top to bottom? Nothing is clear about it. So this is going to confuse your users about what they need to do on the website and how can they actually get the content they are looking for. So do not create hierarchies or visual hierarchies like this. Arrange your content in a lucid form so that it's easier for the end user to understand what the website or the mobile application is about, what the content is, and how can he get to the content he is looking for as fast as possible. Now if we go over to the Netflix site, this is a very good UI one can design, because here it is very clear that it is a web service where you can watch videos, and a call to action is clearly visible that they want you to try the service free of charge for like 30 days. So the call to actions is right in the center of the screen. So you have to create visual hierarchies which are natural to the eye. So that's all for today. I know that we have scratched only a surface of accessibility, and there is quite a lot you have to learn when it comes to accessibility and how to make your products more accessible to the people so that everyone can benefit from something you have created. And it's an ongoing process. The more websites or UI you create, the more feedback is going to come your way, and it is your responsibility to receive that feedback and reiterate over your UI based on that feedback so that you can serve your audience better. And the better the UI is, the better the involvement from the end user will be. Okay, so with that we have reached to the conclusion of this video. In case you like the content, do not shy away from giving this video a thumbs up, and in case you have more doubts or you have a video request, do not forget to leave a comment on this video, and I'll see you around in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.